Hi, everyone, and welcome to the weekly MMA Cycles Market Update. This is the 20th of March, 2024, and I am Gianni DePocia, your host. It's a very exciting day for markets in the United States. We have the FOMC rate decision, followed by the Fed Chair Powell press conference, and markets seemingly at an important inflection point. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. We are in a really important reversal zone right now. A couple really powerful geocosmic signatures. We started off this week with the sun forming a conjunction to Neptune, and then we started Aries season, the beginning of spring, yesterday. So now in the northern hemisphere, the amount of light time will be greater than the amount of nighttime in, again, the northern hemisphere. And for those of you that follow WG Gann, this is a really important time as well, because Gann commented how it's not uncommon to see markets form reversals within a few days of the seasonal changes or the cardinal points in the zodiac. But tomorrow we have another really important geocosmic signature, and that's going to be Venus conjunct Saturn. And as a rule, we like to buy markets making new lows going into Venus Saturn hard aspects, and we have one of those tomorrow. The problem is that markets have been generally rising. The Dow Jones holding up really well here, and the S&P 500 is also pressing up against its all-time high. So is the Nasdaq. So I wonder if there's going to be a shift in inflation expectations later this week with Mars going into Pisces. Mars can be inflammatory. Aggravating Pisces has a lot to do with inflation due to its co-rulership between Jupiter and Neptune. So I think it's a really important time for markets. And in the past couple of years, we've seen situations where inflation expectations have increased, and that's sent stock markets lower. But so far, they're holding up all right. I'm not really concerned about what the Fed is going to do today. They're probably not going to raise rates. But what's important is the Fed chair's press conference, because so far, coming into this year, we were looking at rate cuts as soon as March, and that's not going to happen. And the number of rate cuts that the market is pricing in is decreasing. The good news is the economy is clearly strong enough to handle higher interest rates for longer. But a lot of the rally that we've seen in stocks off of this low from October has been on the premise that rate cuts were coming. So, we're coming into some various long-term cycle culmination time bands, and I think that downside risks are increasing, not necessarily in the short term, but over the course of the next couple of months. And obviously, we're only a month away now from Jupiter conjunct Uranus. And do we get a parabolic stock market going into that signature, followed by a high? I mean, that's definitely a situation that we are considering right now. But, in the case of crypto, we've seen prices finally come down from their all-time highs when it comes to Bitcoin. A little bit of a rebound here so far today. This could be a temporary bottom. We've talked about the 15, 16-month cycle culminating. We would prefer to see a low happen sometime in April, and ideally close to the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. That would be really nice for crypto based on a geocosmic and cyclical timing model. But Ethereum has bore the brunt of the sell-off, but it has rebounded nicely today. We did have a target of around 2,800, 3,000 in Ethereum. We fell to 3,057 in the cash market. So that could be a temporary low, but not quite satisfactory from a primary cycle standpoint. Ethereum still, in theory, has some more time to decline. Let's take a look at energy through USO, the crude oil fund. Gap down today, but it does look like we broke out. We did manage to register an overbought reading here in the RSI indicator between starting the week with Sun conjunct Neptune and Mars ingressing into Pisces at the end of this week. Look out for crude oil here, because I think if this continues higher, the Fed's not going to be able to cut rates anytime soon. Right now, you're about a 50% chance or more that the rate cut's going to happen in June. But recall, at the beginning of this year, we were looking for that first rate cut to be at today's meeting, and it's been pushed back 3 months so far. So it all comes down to inflation and what the energy market is doing. The more that the energy market rallies, the more the rate cuts get put back. But again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Let's go ahead and take a look at TLT. We did just send out the monthly ETF report today. So we did have some in-depth analysis on both USO and TLT here. A little bit of a corrective rally so far. I'm not putting too much stock in it just yet, especially if crude oil continues to rebound here. So be on the lookout here. If inflation expectations continue to rise, the whole idea that a long-term cycle low was completed in October may be nullified sooner rather than later. I want to take a look at GDX for a precious metal proxy. We are in the time band for a temporary low in this CRD period, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. The only challenge that we're working through now is it's been the case that as interest rates have come down, gold has done well, but now if interest rates come up, can gold continue to rally? We'll probably have our answer by the end of this week. We are in the time band for a low, but it's been a very explosive rally. Gold hit a new all-time high. And if we see precious metals continue their bull run, one would think that the precious metal mining sector would be very much on sale. So be sure to keep an eye on that. I want to take a look at the euro against the dollar and then the Japanese yen against the dollar. A little bit of a rebound here. I'm still favoring the downside for the euro as long as we remain below this high for March 8th, which occurred one trading day before Venus ingressed into Pisces. And what's interesting is that the high here on the 28th of December was the day that Venus ingressed into Sagittarius. So the last two highs that we've had in the euro occurred when Venus ingressed into mutable signs, Sagittarius on the 28th, and it was actually March 11th for Pisces. So it seems to be pretty important near term. But I want to take a look at USD JPY as well, because we're in the time band for a long-term cycle to culminate in the dollar yen, but we are on the precipice of breaking out to a new multi-decade high. We did form a primary cycle low here on the 11th, which is what we were looking for. But this could be the last primary cycle within the greater 4-year cycle in the Japanese yen. And now you have talks of the Bank of Japan finally pivoting and raising rates, coming out of negative interest rate territory. Meanwhile, the Fed is talking about cutting rates. So that would be a perfect recipe for the Japanese yen to have a massive appreciation in value. I don't think that's going to happen yet, but we are on the precipice of that. We are also at the level where the Bank of Japan last stepped in to intervene to protect the value of the Japanese yen. I don't think they're going to be able to hold on to it right now, but this could have something to do with the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in Taurus. It's making a very powerful aspect to the natal chart of the Bank of Japan and Tokyo, which we outlined in the Forecast 2024 book. If you want to know more, I would encourage you to check that out. So right now, markets are waiting to see what Fed Chair Powell does. Like I said, rate cuts probably not going to happen, but it really just depends on what the Fed Chair says in the press conference today. And as a rule, the day after the Fed matters more than the day of the Fed. So don't put too much stock in what the market does today. Be keen on what it does next week. So that's all that I wanted to review with you today, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. You can find all of our reports and educational content at www.mmacycles.com. And thanks for watching. We have some really exciting announcements coming down the pipeline, so stay tuned. Otherwise, we'll be back same time, same place next week. Thanks again, everyone.